iAndrew, and today I am bringing you episode 22 of From Dota to League, as it says there in the bottom left-hand corner from the looks of things. So I'm using this new recording program. It's called Ezvid, I guess. XSplit hasn't been working for me, so that's why I haven't released an episode lately. Anyway, last week we went over Udyr and Urgot. So I was thinking about doing Xingzhou, but I don't remember them all that well. But we will go over Vladimir today, and we'll also go over Cho'Gath and Sion. Alright, so get ready, folks. So Vladimir is an interesting champion. First off, like I said, yeah, he just scales off of the health and the ability power. Now I do want to mention there is a new item which may make building health on him more attractive than before. Actually, the new jungle item. So the new jungle item actually increases your maximum health by a lot. So yeah, I haven't actually tried it because when he was free to play, the new jungle item wasn't available yet. I was just using Juggernaut. Unfortunately, while I was playing Vladimir, I noticed that his ability, Tides of Blood, is incredibly annoying. First off, it's got a super low cooldown, and you want to spam it. Okay, and so then you hear it, because he's constantly casting it. And that's really annoying. In fact, you have to spam it, because if you don't get maximum value out of it, or his other spells. So it really sucks. If they would tweak the abilities that it wasn't so freaking annoying, then it would be nice for everybody that has to deal with a Vladimir in the game, whether they're playing as him, with him, or against him. So, Riot, please fix Tides of Blood sound effect. That would be great. Alright, but anyways, seriously though. He's a really cool champ. So, Sanguine Pool is his main ability that scales off of his bonus health. So the more bonus health he has, the more damage it deals. With that said, it does a lot of damage, but at the same time, the cooldown is kind of whatever. But the main thing is, it just costs like way too much of your health. So, yeah, I would be careful about spamming it, first of all. But also, I would be careful about building health. That said, though, if you're building jungle Vladimir, it might be viable to go massive amounts of bonus health rather than AP. But generally speaking, AP is the way to go on Vladimir, assuming you're not getting the green enchantment jungle item. So, you're not getting the green enchantment jungle item. Transfusion's probably the ability you want to max out first, because it will keep you alive. Actually, even if you are getting health, you might want to max it out first. It basically gives you health and takes it from the opponent. And you're already a ranged champ, and this has a pretty decent cast range itself. So that's pretty nice. Not much else to say about it. I believe it takes health away before it gives it to you. But anyways. Now, his basic ability is just his power levels. And how it works is his ability power will give him health, and then that health will give him a little bit of ability power, and then it stops there. So if he does get bonus health, that will give him ability power, and then it stops there. So, yeah, the thing to keep in mind, I guess, is that it's basically, for Vladimir, there's two different kinds of ability power. For every other champion, there's just one kind, I believe. And that's just a regular ability power. But for Vladimir, he's got a second kind of ability power called bonus ability power. So how this works is that a bonus ability power does not add to his bonus health. So that's the limiting mechanic here. Alright? So that's how that works. Even though it says it does not stack with itself, that's technically not true. And that's why it actually means that, generally speaking, it's better just to build ability power on him rather than bonus health, unfortunately. But it would be cool if they reversed that. Even if they don't, it might still be nice to get that new green enchantment item and see how that goes. It probably is pretty strong on him. It's a good item in general, so who knows. It might be okay to buy rather than the blue enchantment item, I suppose, anyways, even if you do want to get ability power on him. Not really sure. Now, moving on. So, what else is there to talk about? Okay, so everything pretty much that he does is magic damage as far as his abilities. Of course, obviously his physical attacks are physical damage. His basic attacks are, I mean. Now, the interesting thing about Tides of Blood is it hits a relatively wide area around him. It hits every single unit. So it's really good for farming, and it's great for team fights. And Sanguine Pool hits a much smaller area. One thing that's great about Sanguine Pool is it makes him invulnerable, or rather untargetable. It's kind of the same thing, but anyways, so he can take damage in it, like if he already got ignited or something like that. But it's really cool because he's able to slow the enemy, so it makes it really hard for them to get away, and they also lose a lot of life. So it's pretty nice. What else can we comment on? As far as spell vamp goes, Sanguine Pool usually isn't as valuable. Usually you're going to use Sanguine Pool on enemy champions, and they probably are not going to let you use it on a group of them. And even if you do, you might not stay there for very long. Actually, this might be a case where you flash in or you flash out before or after you cast the spell, and if that's the case, then it might be a more valuable source of healing with your spell vamp. But generally speaking, you're not going to get a whole lot out of it for your spell vamp, because you're only going to be hitting like 1 or 2 guys with it, and since it's an area of effect, it's only going to be getting 1/3 of the value of the healing. So, and that's the same thing with the Tides of Blood, except for Tides of Blood, it hits a huge area and it hits every single unit. It's much wider diameter or whatever, so, and it's like instant, plus you're able to spam it without like, see, Sanguine Pool costs like a percentage of like your total health, your current health or something like that, whereas Tides of Blood just costs a flat health amount. So it's really easy for you to make back the health cost of Tides of Blood, whereas it's much more difficult to make back the health cost on Sanguine. So this is definitely much more spammable, and as a result you're able to get way more healing off of it in general. Plus, also, this will increase the healing you get from your other abilities anyways once you have the stacks high enough. You get the stacks up to 4, I believe, on this, so you really got to spam it a lot to get the value out of it. Unfortunately, you cannot continue to stack it unless there's stuff around you for you to attack with this spell. So it's basically like Fan of Knives, so in other words, but you technically can cast it, I think, if there's nothing to hit, but you are not going to continue to charge it, I think. I don't know, I could be wrong, maybe that's wrong. I don't think it is. Anyway, you definitely want to try to keep up the charges on it. That's the main thing. And now, so transfusion though, that's why I recommend you max it out first, because it's only a single target, which means there's no 1/3 of the value that you heal from. It's the full value of the, like if you got one maximum tier spell vamp item, it's going to be 20% spell vamp. So you literally get 20% of the magic damage you dealt with this item that goes to heal you. It's not 1/3 of 20%, right? So you really get your value out of the spell vamp on that. So it already heals you, and then you can heal even more. So typically, if I were to play Vladimir and I'm getting AP, I would suggest just getting both spell vamp items. It's just really nice to have all that extra spell vamp. Double your spell vamp, and you'll be sitting pretty. But you know, actually, that new Liden's Echo's looking pretty good, and it's really gonna be hard to. There's so many good AP items now. It's really gonna be hard to decide. You know, maybe sometimes you might only get 20%. I don't know. Might take some experience to figure out, you know, how bulky do you really need to be and stuff. And of course, if you do have more ability power, I guess you do get more health because you're basic. So who knows? He's a pretty interesting champ, one way or the other. So now his ultimate. This is like some kind of a skill shot ability, and I actually don't really understand it all that well. But as it appears, it seems to be like some kind of what do I want to say? Like you can cast it before you start casting like your extra tides of blood, or before you do your sanguine pool, or before you do like a transfusion or something. Now, so this ability seems to have two phases. So the first phase is it's like a debuff, I guess. And I'm not sure if it's like smoke bomb from graves or whatever, where like as soon as you step out then you're no longer debuffed. That might be the case, I'm not sure. Probably. Anyways, I guess if that's the case, then while people are in there, they're going to be taking more damage. So that's like whatever. And then I don't think it's for very long, actually. And then a little bit later, then they take some magic damage, which I can't remember if it scales your ability power or your bonus health, but I'm pretty sure it's ability power. Either way, I don't think the scaling's all that significant. So it's mainly used to just to like increase the damage of your other abilities mainly. So it's pretty interesting. I really haven't mastered it at all, but some players with some more experience on Vladimir could probably tell you more about it. So there's not much else to him. That's Vladimir. There really isn't a whole lot of point to building attack damage on him, but I mean, if you were going to, then I would suggest getting some lifesteal, I suppose. He's not a melee champion, so Bloodthirster comes to mind, I guess, rather than something like a Ravenous Hydra. So, I don't know, whatever. Another option might be to grab the Iceborne Gauntlet. That would even slow the enemy down, I guess. And that would give you a bit of ability power, but it would also give you some physical damage. So it wouldn't necessarily actually even be building attack damage, but it would be a way for you to actually deal some physical damage rather than only doing ability damage. However, I don't think his base attack damage is very high, so it might not be all that effective of a strategy. Who knows? Anyways, he doesn't really have any slows, so one thing you can go for is like a Rylai's, but you could also he's actually known to scratch that. No, his invulnerability, or I mean untargetability, is a slow. So anyways, I guess he doesn't really need something like an Iceborne Gauntlet, unless of course you are trying to restrict how often you use your ability that makes you lose most of your health, or a lot of your health rather. It's like 25% or something of your bonus health, or whatever the heck. It's a lot of health, whatever the subtraction is a percentage at any rate. So moving on, we want to go over Sion. He is a very interesting champ too, and I would say there's even a better argument probably for him for playing jungle for him now, with that new green enchantment, because of the way his abilities have been tweaked. So Sion has gotten a big rework. So what's he all about? Okay, first of all, oh my goodness, he's one of the strongest champions in the game now. Okay, his basic ability is a little bit cheesy. Not really one of my favorite basic abilities. Some people like it, some people don't. It's like whatever. So it's kind of like Kog'Maw when he dies and is able to do some stuff, or Karthus. It's kind of the same thing for him. In his case, he actually morphs into a different form, and so he gets like 100% lifesteal, attacks extremely fast. I'm not really sure what his attack value is, or if there's like a bonus attached to it, if it gets fixed to a certain value. I haven't bothered to check the champion info when he turns into the swarm, but anyway, it also says that he deals an additional 10% of his target's maximum health as physical damage on hit. So, in other words, assuming the guy has like 0 armor, I guess, he'll die in 10 hits. So that's pretty crazy. Well, actually, technically less, because I guess he's still dealing his regular damage, so I don't know, whatever. Anyways, max 75 bonus damage against monsters. So, it's not hugely insane for farming the jungle, I guess, if you die. So, it's got a pretty long cooldown, so it's not that great, but obviously it means that he could scale pretty well with CDRs, cooldown reduction. Anyways, pretty interesting stuff. So, one thing to note is that, it really doesn't last very long, so it's not that big of a deal to just kind of like slow him, and I do believe he can only speed himself up by movement speed like once or so. So it's really not that impressive, generally speaking, but it's still kind of cool. And of course, his health does lower. So actually, I'm thinking maybe he doesn't time out. He only just times out because he loses all his health. Maybe. Well, anyway, yeah. In that case, it's just a matter of kiting him until he dies, because his only way to stay alive is keep life stealing stuff. Anyways, yeah, it's a funky ability. I haven't totally mastered it, but it's not that big of a deal, because it's usually pretty easy to just stay away and then he dies, and that's the main point that I'm trying to make here. Alright, so Decimating Smash. So, another thing I want to comment on is probably both his basic and now this ability are going to be enhanced by however much attack damage he has. So in this case, this ability scales incredibly well his attack damage. Now this is an ability that charges up, somewhat like Varus's arrow. Varus arrow. Anyway, yeah. So in this case, he's just got like this giant axe that he swings or whatever. He swings it in front of himself, and it's just like, with so much force, it just hits like a really large area in front of him. So it's great for farming, and it actually does like a knock up and then a stun. So it is a really good disable. Now you do have to charge it up for a certain amount of time to proc the knock up stuff. Or actually, you get a knock up right away, I think, even if you don't charge it up very much. If you charge it up enough, then you'll get a stun afterwards, I believe. I'm not sure if those duration values scale or not, but definitely as you charge it up, the damage will scale up. So it not only scales very well with your attack damage, but it also scales up with the charging. And now there is a limit, of course, to how much you can charge it up, so keep that in mind. At any rate, it's a really good argument for Sion to build attack damage in general. Now, moving on, I want to talk about his ultimate too, because I know that also scales with his attack damage. So his ultimate is something that a lot of people have made fun of, and yeah, it's kind of a cheeky ability, and it actually can be strong, but it's not hard to outplay it generally, unless it's just like it catches you by surprise, or there's just like various circumstances that might, like, you can use it as a follow-up to your ally stunning or something. Anyways, the point is it does significant damage if you can hit somebody, and it also knocks them up, and kind of looks like maybe the knockup scales with the distance the duration does, so that's interesting. I don't know about that, but either way, he is really strong. So definitely, if you want to, you can just charge someone nearby you, and I think you'll still do a significant amount of damage. Although I'm not too sure about how much damage you would do. I'm not sure if the damage scales with distance or not, but the more AD you have, the more damage damaging to deal, and that's the main thing. But if you do charge him right next to you, I'm pretty sure the knockup is not going to be significant at all, so keep that in mind. But it is going to be easier to hit them. So it kind of reminds me, it is a lot like the Charge of Darkness that Spirit Breaker has in Dota 2. However, there's, the pretty big difference in that it's, it's not like crazy because you can't actually go through terrain. In fact, you can actually bump into terrain with this ability and get your ability stopped. So even though it's called Unstoppable Onslaught, technically you can totally be stopped by terrain. So it's not all that unstoppable. So maybe they should think about renaming that, but whatever. So, also, of course, it doesn't deal magic damage. It's actually doing physical damage, I do believe. And I do also want to point out, since we were talking about Dota 2 a little bit, that this actually does kind of remind me of Lion and Mixed Assassins and Pale. Difference being, of course, it is much wider. I think it doesn't go quite as far, though. But it is much wider, which is nice. And also, it's not necessarily instant, so yeah, pretty cool stuff. So moving on, what is the second ability all about? His second ability is a combination of two of his old abilities before he was reworked. So it's got a passive and an active, I believe. Yeah. So it's actually got two actives. So the second one is a reactivation. So what is the passive? First of all, the passive is him just gaining maximum health when killing enemies. Before it was he would get a bonus to his attack damage, I suppose, and then that made it easier for him to get CS and kills on enemy champs, and those kills would give him the maximum health. So in this case, he doesn't actually get the bonus to his attack damage at all. So that is unfortunate, but the nice trade-off is that he can activate a shield. So his old ability, another one, was that he could activate a shield, which scaled on his ability power. Now this actually does scale, but it doesn't scale with ability power. Rather, it scales with, I'm not sure if it's either his bonus health or his total health. It's probably his bonus health, but either way, it shields himself based on health, and so the higher his health is, the stronger the shield is, obviously, because it scales with that. And then you do have a delay of 2 seconds, and once those 2 seconds are up, then you're able to detonate it. And I do believe it is like the old one, where if somebody does destroy the shield before you can detonate it, then it's not going to deal damage. So it is a magic damage ability, and it's scaling on your health. So that's nice, because between his first ability and his ultimate, he's dealing he's dealing physical damage from 2 different sources. So it is valuable for him to have another damage type. So with this, and it scales off of a different stat as well. So that's pretty nice and makes him relatively flexible. So definitely, I feel like this ability is strong enough to warrant a purchase if you're jungling with him of the new green enchantment. That would be a very, very fine choice, because that green jungle enchantment will enhance the effectiveness of Soul Furnace. Soul Furnace will increase in power significantly with that new green enchantment. So he's got a really great buff in this newest patch. We should definitely be seeing him in jungle, if not by pros, then by pubs. And he's actually only 1350 IP right now, which is crazy. So I really, really actually want to purchase him again. I actually refunded him a long time ago before the rework, but I'm actually like I'm like 28 IP away from purchasing either Ezreal or Galio. So I gotta purchase one of them first. I'm not sure which one I want, and then I might save up for the other one, or I might just get Sion. I'm not sure. But wow, now that he got this indirect buff from the new green enchantment, I'm seriously considering picking him up because he's so strong. He just scales so incredibly well, and you could totally go like full AD after you get the green item too. Like technically, you don't even have to build more health items if you don't want to, just because Soul Furnace gives you so much extra health anyways. But that's just the theory at any rate. But and even just getting like Frozen Mallet, that would give you damage and health anyways, and so that would be kind of nice to have something like that. Anyways, whatever. So, and then it's like he doesn't even need a third ability at this point. He is so freaking strong. But so what does his third ability do? It is pretty cool because it does slow an enemy hit. So he can hit a minion or monster and basically use it as like a rock. You can kind of think of it as Nars rock. Of course, in this case, it won't actually stun something, but it will slow something. In fact, it slows all enemies that it passes through, so it can get knocked pretty far away. So it's pretty interesting, and I think it's a relatively short range, but so it's just kind of like a punch that creates a shockwave. So you can kind of think of it as like from the show Naruto. What's his name? Might Guy. He's got like these nunchucks, and he's just this move with them, and then it creates this shockwave, and it just pushes people back or something. I don't remember, but that's kind of like what Sion does. He just does it with his fist or something like that. It's pretty cool. Anyways, I'm not really sure what kind of damage it does, but it says it damages. So it's physical, magical, true, whatever. I don't know. It doesn't really say, but it does reduce the armor of the enemies, so that's pretty cool. So you can use it as a follow-up. So that way you can follow up with the Decimate and Smash, because they're slowed. They might not be able to get out of the area of your Decimate and Smash, so you can really ramp up the damage that you do with that, especially with the armor being reduced. So he's pretty strong. Maybe you don't necessarily have to buy minus armor on him. You can just go full on AD, whatever. So that's pretty cool. So since this does reduce the armor, and it doesn't actually reduce magic resist, that says a lot for the power of AD Sion rather than health Sion, because the health Sion is magic damage. So keep that in mind. Alright, so I would still say this health Sion is more valuable, if you get champions like ones that want to buy an Abyssal Scepter perhaps, and you can fight nearby them. Or just like if you have a Kale and you're like attacking whatever targets she's attacking, that's legit too. Especially because with her third ability, she can attack a group of units, and you can just attack a group of units yourself just by blowing them up with your shield. So yeah, that's and plus you'll be doing extra damage as well because she also reduces their armor as well, not just their magic resistance. So overall, I would say Kale is probably one of Sion's better allies because he's got that mix of damage and it hits an area, and she's hitting a group of units and lowering both of their defenses. So I would say that's probably one of his better allies. There are probably some others that are pretty nice too. For example, Galio would be a good ally for Sion, just because he can really raise Sion's defenses, which would make him make the most out of his shield. So that way, he could keep it up longer. I'm not sure if there's other reasons why that might work too. I have a feeling like Galio's ultimate might be really helpful too. I'm not really sure. Anyways, it's been a long while since I've played Galio, but I do really like him a lot. So, there's not much else to say about Sion, really. He's really strong, so whatever. Alright. And let's talk about Cho'Gath too, okay? I don't think we did yet. I keep thinking we should have. Oh, no, we did talk about Cho'Gath in episode 14, actually. Okay. One thing that I wanted to point out, Something about Sivir, right? Okay, so Urgot, right? He was last episode. I wanted to point out that I didn't consider the idea of a top lane Urgot, but there was a Riot news article where they promoted top lane Urgot. So I gave Sivir top lane a try, and I really liked it. And I think maybe if you guys give it a try, you'll like it too. I do think you should consider picking up something like a Thornmail or a Frozen Heart, and then